welcome to our channel. I'm Andrew, and this little guy right here is Tyrone Jr. We call him TJ for short. TJ was born with Kabuki syndrome, so we're just here to do our little part, trying to help raise awareness for Kabuki syndrome because it's such a rare disease. So we're here today to talk a little bit about what Kabuki syndrome is and a little about TJ and when he was diagnosed and how we have been dealing with things since his diagnosed. I have notes, so if you see me looking down, I'm just reading off my notes, so I'll try to fit in as much as I can and not forget anything. Yes, so let's jump right in. So Kabuki syndrome was also known as Kabuki makeup syndrome. The reason why it is called Kabuki syndrome or was called Kabuki makeup syndrome is because of the Japanese performed theater there, because of the Japanese art. I think, I'm quite not sure if it's a dance or if it's a play, but the makeup that they will put on their face when the babies were born that had Kabuki syndrome would resemble the makeup that was used. So it was called the Japanese makeup. It was called the Kabuki makeup syndrome because that's the name of the makeup, the Kabuki makeup. Because if you Google Kabuki, then it's just information about the art, the Japanese art form, and you'll see the makeup that they use on their face. So but if you put Kabuki syndrome, then it will talk about the disorder. So yeah, so it's different. Kabuki is fairly new. It was identified in 1981, and that's 39 years ago. So it's fairly new. It's fairly rare. It's fairly rare. It's one in 32,000 babies that are born with Kabuki. Some people, some scientists believe that it could be more. It could be 1 in 15, but because of how much is not known about it, a lot of people go their whole life undiagnosed. So for now, what they do know, it's 1 in every 32,000 babies are born with Kabuki syndrome. Kabuki syndrome is basically a multi-system disorder, characterized by multi-abnormalities. So it affects multiple organs in a person with Kabuki syndrome. No two person can have the same problems or have the same stuff going on with them at the time. It can be different because it's a wide range of symptoms that are across the board. So what may affect this person that has Kabuki syndrome may not affect that another person that have Kabuki syndrome. So everybody, that from my understanding, everyone with Kabuki syndrome just take their little part from the pool of symptoms that there is out there. So some of the symptoms that kids or a person with Kabuki syndrome are diagnosed with is, so specific syndrome for Kabuki syndrome varies with large difference between affected individual. Most people with Kabuki syndrome have distinctive facial features, which my little buddy here also have that. That include arch eyebrow, long eyelashes, and he does have that. His eyelashes are so long that they curl in on themselves and touching his eyelid. Elongated eyelid with lower lid that turn out. He did have that when he was younger. Yes, when he was fairly new, he had that when he closed his eyes, his lower eyelid, you could see inside of it. So he had that, but the more he grew, he does not have that problem anymore. Yes, you do not have that problem, right? So large ears, voila, we have that. Our best feature, right? Yes. So large ears are also a part of it. I'm sorry for my background. I live fairly close to the road, so from time to time vehicles do pass by. A flat tip of the nose and a downward slant of the mouth. Do you have that? You don't? Okay. Mild to moderate intellectual disability and mild to severe developmental delay. So intellectual disability, we will not know if it's mild to moderate for him until obviously he start growing and reach the age of school age. But developmental delay, he does have that. He's 6 months. He's just starting to learn to roll over on his own. He does not go into a full roll on his own at the moment, unless if he's on a pillow, then he'll roll off the pillow and end up on his tummy. Otherwise from that, no. I've seen that he does roll off his tummy onto his side and then onto his back, but that's not something he does often. It's depend on his mood that he does that. So yes, he does. We are now training him to sit up, so that's something that we're working on. He's getting there with that. So he does have developmental delay. Also, another symptoms, infant and young children often experience difficulty related to weak muscle tones, which he does have that. He have weak muscle tone in his neck. He have last month when he was 5 months, I would say that's when he started to control his neck more. That's a big yard. He used to go into an arch position, which he still does now. When he lay down, he will have his head all the way back, and he will like go into a C shape when he's laying down. Even if he's on his back, he will still be in like a C shape, and that's because of the weak muscle tone. That's because of the weak muscle tone in his neck. He prefers his right side over his left side, not just with his neck. He prefers to look to the right, but he prefers to use his right hand over his left hand, his right foot over his left foot. He prefers to be on his right side over his left side. So his strength is in his right side, so he does go to therapy. So now we are working on strengthening his left side. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Why are we getting cranky? We're getting too cranky. What happened? I guess he doesn't like to be talked about, right? Yes. So we are working on strengthening his left side more. Also, otherwise from the muscle tone, they tend to have feeding issue, which he does have feeding issue because now he has a G tube that is connected to his stomach, and that's how he get majority of his feeds. We are transitioning into feeding by mouth, but just 15 cc twice a day, and it has to be thickened, so he cannot get just the straight liquid formula. It has to have some rice cereal in there and have a thicker texture to it for him to swallow. I'll talk a little bit about why he has a G tube after. So yes, so he does have feeding issues. Also, another symptom is failure to strive. We don't have that. He's gaining weight very nicely. He's a little bit above on the chart, a little bit below on the chart, sorry, but it's nothing to be concerned about, so we do not have that problem. The kids with Kabuki syndrome can also have surgical surgeries done on them to repair their heart. So Kabuki syndrome kids can have heart problem, kidney problem, liver problem, can have problem with their T cells, whatever it is you can think of, they can tend to have problem with that. We do not have that problem with TJ. He doesn't have any heart problem, nor kidney nor liver problem or anything. He does have an allergy testing coming up soon, where they're going to test his antibodies, because at the moment, before he turned 6 months, he still had my antibodies, so they were waiting on him to start having his own antibodies to find out if they are functioning the way they should. So he have that testing coming up to do. Another symptom is frequent infection, ear infection, so, and can tend to lead to loss of hearing. And that was one of the scariest thing when I just found out that he had Kabuki syndrome. That was one of the scariest thing for us, because the genetic doctor that spoke to us told me that 50% of Kabuki kids tend to go deaf. So that was scary, because that's a high number. That's a very high number, and they tend to go deaf at some point in their life, so it can happen at any time. We are thankful he hadn't had one ear infection since, so we are grateful for that. Also, older children and adults report difficulty with anxiety, and when I read up or watch videos where Kabuki are being in the Kabuki group, that anxiety tends to be a big thing that comes out a lot, especially with adults that has Kabuki syndrome. They tend to be struggling with anxiety. So yes, so, and you can also have abnormalities with your immune system. As I mentioned before, he's doing a testing for that. You can have skeleton abnormalities, so scoliosis, short stature. So that's also, we would have to wait till he start grow to know how he grows with his height, or if he will have scoliosis. So small head. Is your head small? Do you have a small head? Do you think you have a small head? So he doesn't have a small head. His head is normal. The only thing with his head is the shape of his head. So I will insert the word down below because I have difficulty pronouncing it. So he has that, and he's getting a helmet to help shape his head properly, to shape it back to normal. So he's getting a dark band for his head pretty soon. We went and did our measurement yesterday, so it's been a long, tedious process. It's been over 3 months doing the whole process with it, because at first they wanted him to have better control of his neck, and when he did, then we had to do the insurance process and wait on the insurance to approve him, and they finally did. So now we went and did a measurement yesterday. The camera is acting all funny. Yay, you see? We went and did the measurement yesterday, and now we are waiting for our day to go back and fit our dot band. Right? Right, to go. Yeah. Yeah. Right, so his head is normal. Low sugar. When he was born, he did have low sugar, so low sugar is also a thing. Also one of the symptoms with Kabuki kids are a person with Kabuki syndrome. I keep saying kids because I have a baby, so that's why. And I guess everybody was a child at one point with Kabuki syndrome, because it's something that you're born with. It's not something that develops over time. You have to be born with it, and it can't be cured because it's your gene mutated. That's also another thing with Kabuki syndrome. Your gene mutated from you were in the womb, so there's no cure for Kabuki syndrome. It's just a part of you. So yes, so those are some of the symptoms. I know there are maybe a few more that I have forgotten, but you can Google Kabuki syndrome and they will come up. So a little about TJ. TJ was full term. He came at 38 weeks by C-section. I was put to sleep, and when I woke up, was prepared to see my baby, they told me that he was in the NICU because he had breathing problems. I asked him why he had breathing problems. They weren't too sure, but they were saying something like he probably had fluid in his lungs, so he will be okay in a day or two. You remember? Do you remember? Right, so he would be okay in a day or two, which did not turn out to be the case. He spent 7 weeks in the NICU. It was 7 long weeks in the middle of COVID, that I had to be going back and forth from home to the hospital, which was really hard because I have 2 other kids. One is now 12, and my daughter, my first boy, he's now 12, and my daughter, she's 2. So it was a lot to take in then. So it was like 2 weeks, since 2 weeks that he was in the NICU, that the doctor said to me, okay, something is not right. He has a small chin, which was right here, his chin right here. It's so small. Yeah, it's so small. So his ears, they were more I would say flexible. They were more like a floppy. The cartilage was not firm in his ears then, and stuff, and because of his eyelash that was so long, his eyelid that would turn out. So with all of this, he's saying, okay, something is not right. So we did a genetic testing. You have to wait 3 weeks to get the result, or longer because of COVID, so it could take longer. So yes, so they did the genetic testing, and we did a lot of testing during the meanwhile while we were waiting on the camera is having a hard time focus. Let me see if I shift it a bit. Right, so yeah, we did the genetic testing, and while we were waiting, they also did tests on his heart, on his liver, his kidney. He had a brain a scan done on his brain. They were just trying to make sure everything was okay with him. All this time he was still on oxygen and still had a feeding tube that was run through his nose down to his stomach. Hi Suckums. Yeah, that was run from his nose down to his stomach. So yeah. So yeah, so through all this time he was still on the oxygen, and till they decided that he's starting to breathe better. He started to breathe on his own without much assistance of the oxygen. His breathing would go down sometimes, that they would have to turn up back the oxygen on him. But they figured, okay, so now they found out that he could not have anything by mouth because the formula was going down into his lung, because the little muscle that is inside. Ow, 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 ow. Could you let go, mommy here? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the little formula, the farm. No! It's not funny. So yes, the formula was going down into his lung, down into his windpipe, because the muscle, the little muscle the little muscle that's supposed to close off his windpipe when you swallow, his wasn't working. And then they said they do not know if it will ever start working, because a lot of people live their whole life on G-tube. So that was also a scary moment, but they did say that it could start working. They don't know when. There's no surgery to fix it. We'll just have to wait on him for when it started to get stronger. I think it's the epiglottis, if I'm not mistaken. So for when it to start get stronger and stuff, so it would all depend on him. So they would have to put in a G-tube. They would have to put in a G-tube so he could get feeding by a G-tube at home. So that was on schedule to be done when they know he was close to be discharged. So 2 days before, or 3 days before he was discharged, his result came back that he had Kabuki. That was the first time I was hearing of Kabuki syndrome. I did not know what Kabuki syndrome was, and to be honest, I was home when they called me and tell me that the result came back. And when she told me it was Kabuki syndrome, she was on the phone explaining what Kabuki syndrome was to me. And to be honest, I did not hear a word that she said. I could not tell you her explanation, what she explained it to be, because I was just zoned out. It was hard for me to hear it. So it was after I got off the phone with her that I had to jump on my phone and research what Kabuki syndrome was, because I did not hear anything from the conversation that we were having. I would reply to her a bit. Basically, she was more like asking me when is the next time I would be coming by to the hospital. She could meet me when I came by to speak to me more about it after she finished explaining everything. So it was when I got off with the phone, then I went and researched it for myself to find out what Kabuki syndrome was really is. And because it is so rare, there is not much information. Every website you go on basically repeat the same thing over and over and over again. So that was that. He got the G-tube put in 2 days before he got home. He also had a Nissen done when the G-tube was being put in, because he had severe acid reflux. So every time he would reflux, some of what came up would go down into his windpipe, so I go down into his lung. So they asked me if I wanted to do the Nissen, which of course is his safety. I wanted him home, and if it could bring him home and bring him home safe, where I wouldn't have to be home and be scared to be rushing him back to the emergency room because he had problem breathing. So I said yes, I am more than happy to get that done if that means that he would be safe. And so yes, we had the Nissen done, and the Nissen is basically they wrapped his stomach around his esophagus to prevent stuff from coming up. It can be successful and it cannot be successful, as I was told, because some people that have it done still was able to vomit. There is risk in getting a Nissen done, as the doctor explained. It can be done too tightly, and then there's problem of food passing through the esophagus to go to the stomach, and there were risk of it being done, but he would still reflux. So but his went well. Because we've been feeding by mouth, so he's been swallowing, so we know that food is passing through his esophagus. He hadn't reflux since. He still goes through the motion of reflux, but nothing comes up. So that's good that it works. It's just that when he goes through the motion of reflux, it hurts him. So that's really hard to watch, but I'll take that or any day over it going down into his lungs and prevent him from breathing. Yes. So a little about, because he has Kabuki syndrome, he sees a therapist, he goes to the aerodigestive team, he have a pulmonologist, if I'm pronouncing that right. He has an occupational therapy, he have an eye doctor, he see EMT, which is ears, mouth and throat doctor. He has a doctor that he sees for allergy and immunology. What else? What else doctor do you have? What else? He have doctors that I'm a little ashamed to say I have no idea what they're for, because there are so many doctors, and basically we're repeating the same thing over and over each time I go to one. So I'm not sure what they're for. He have doctors that keep up with everything that's going on with his other doctors. So on a given week we tend to have a lot of appointments. Therapy, he has speech therapy, which at the time he's not talking now, obviously he's just 6 months, but they do also consist of swallow therapy, so that's where he goes for his feeding therapy. So yes, on top of his pediatrician that he has, so he have on top of his cranial doctors that he have for his head, and his G-tube doctor that only take care of his G-tube. Yes, so he goes to, I got you. He goes to a lot of doctors on a given week. We some days, every day in the week, we do have doctor appointments. We have some weeks that are quiet now, that he's out the NICU. When he was just out the NICU, we had a lot of doctor appointments back to back, but things have calmed down a little now, but we still do have a lot of doctor's appointment that we have to go to. So yes, am I missing anything? Mommy leaving out anything? I will do a video on his therapy, exercises that we do to help with his low muscle tone. I'll also try to do a video on G-tube, because that's another thing. When he was out the NICU, I was trying to find a video on G-tube and on feeding him through the G-tube. I did find some, but I didn't find that much, so I will also try to do a video on, yes, on how we do our G-tube, right, and our exercises with our therapy. And so please, excuse me, please like, comment, please like, comment, and share, and subscribe. I'll try to make video at least once a week. It's really hard because I've been dying to make these videos for weeks now, and it's really hard with my schedule. So I'll try to make video at least once a week with this little munchkin. He's so cute. Can you say hi? Say hi. Hi. Yeah. And it's Kabuki Awareness Month. Also, October is Kabuki Awareness Month. They have a specific day. It's on the 28th, I think, or the 25th. But we celebrate for the whole of, for all of October. So we consider all of October to be Kabuki Awareness Month. Say yay! Yay! Say hi. Right, so please like, comment, share, and subscribe to follow us. We have an Instagram page at TJ's World, and that's, we try to upload pictures and stuff. It's fairly new. It's a fairly new Instagram page, right? So we try to be active over there also. What? You want to say bye? You say bye. Say bye. You want to say bye-bye? Do we want to say bye-bye? So bye guys. Thank you for watching.
If you want the best of my heart, you just gotta see the good.